Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Today I want to return to the subject of Division 2's new game mode. The one thing that we know is coming in the big update for the game scheduled for sometime in the next few months here. I still think December, but the release date isn't really relevant for this video. Before I dive too deep into this, I just want to give everyone a fair heads up. In order to provide the full context and fully explain how this idea of mine would fit into the game and what we know about the coming update, I'm going to spend a good number of minutes here providing some background, some pre-explanation, if you would. But I don't want to be accused of holding the video subject back for several minutes, so while I don't recommend that you skip ahead, it might be a little disorienting or confusing without the context. I will leave chapters to this video in the description, meaning you can go down there or scroll ahead on the timeline to the point at which I dive into the mechanics of this idea I have for the new game mode. So there you go, skip ahead at your own risk, but I do recommend hearing out my explanation first. Alright, now I haven't talked about this subject, the game mode that is, since way early this year when we were first told that it was coming. I gave some ideas as to what I think would be cool to see, and that was pretty much it, because we obviously haven't heard anything new suggesting what it would be. Well, recently I was given some inspiration, and we'll get into that, and it made me look at the situation with the coming mode in an entirely new way, a way that I never even considered back when I first gave my thoughts on it, and so that's what I want to discuss today. I'm not claiming I know what the mode is going to be. None of us are going to know until we finally get the reveal, but with this new idea I've had, it really does expand the horizon, in my mind, of what they could bring to the game with this new mode, and it has the potential to be a lot more transformative than I originally thought. So yeah, that's what we're going to be going over. Sit back, relax, and let's go. The main thing I've always gotten caught up on is the phrasing the devs used when describing this new game mode. And that's how they've said it's going to be something, and I quote, entirely new to the franchise. And I'm always thinking, what can that really be? Because going by that logic, it won't be procedurally generated dungeons, that's underground. It won't be a BR or survival type mode, survival in Division 1. Last Stand is kind of hard to categorize, but it won't be that. It won't be a horde mode, that's resistance, and whatever summit is, it won't be that. That kind of covers a lot of ground, and supposedly it's not going to be anything like any of those. And in my other speculation video on the game mode, I suggested two potential things. One was just a comment on another idea that was floating around at the time, which was basically Dead by Daylight, but with a hunter and division agents. I still think that'd be pretty badass, but I'd give that a very minimal chance of happening. And then the main idea I put forward in that video was something akin to Gambit from Destiny, where you have two teams competing and racing in PvE objectives with the occasional chance to go and sabotage the other team's progress. I'm not going to lay that all out here. I'll link that video above, though, if you do care to go and listen to it. I still think that could happen, and it would be something entirely new to the franchise, but even then, I never felt super confident in that idea. Everything else with this update seems to be predictable to a degree, calculated even. New build variety and viability, gear changes, talent reworks, rebalancing, maybe an expansion or a new keener watch system, an expansion to that system itself. That'd be pretty cool. Some surprises, right? New legendary missions, that type of stuff. New seasons, exotics, gear sets, all of that, sure. But with the game mode, it's the one thing I've never been able to lock down in my mind for what I think we'll see. Well, that changes today. Now, for complete transparency, I'm not going to claim here that I think this has a higher chance of happening than any other idea that's been thrown out there, whether it be my Gambit idea or anything else others may have said. Those things are just as likely to happen as this is, maybe even more likely. But when I started fleshing this thing out in my mind, it just kind of clicked. And that click is usually what I fall back on for my baseline core speculations. It's instinct, really. And I do really think this idea would not only certainly be something completely new for the franchise, but it would change the way the community views what a game mode has to offer. And so that's why I want to share what that idea is today and talk about it briefly before I unveil that idea. Let me circle back to what I mentioned earlier, which was my inspiration for this whole idea. And just hear me out before you get mad at me, okay? So this is brought to my attention from a viewer of mine, shout out and thank you to Balt, that on NGN's recent video, if you don't know, is a fantastic fellow Division content creator. I'll link his channel below. But he did a recent video kind of recapping where we are in the story and giving his predictions on where it may go next, because he's a big lore guy. That's what his channel is kind of centered around. And if you go down to the comments on that video, you will see none other at the top of the pile than Yannick himself, commenting with nothing but a smiley face. What a troll. Now let me be clear, I'm not basing this video on Yannick commenting a smiley face. That means nothing. It doesn't mean NGN was correct in his speculation, and it doesn't mean he was incorrect. You can't look into a smiley face. However, what Yannick's comment did do for me was make me take another look back at where we are in the story. It piqued my interest, because what can I say? Yannick is a tease. He knows the power he holds over all of us at this point. And so upon my reflection on the story side of Division 2, that's when this idea came to me. And that's what if, for arguably the first time in Division's history, this new game mode had a direct correlation and direct impact on the ongoing story. Because everything else has been an offshoot, right? Underground, Survival, Last Stand, Resistance, Summit, those have all been inconsequential to the story. They might as well have never happened. They were created to deliver fun gameplay loops, and they have. But what if this time they tried mixing story progression and events in with a replayable game mode. Now that is something that I would absolutely say is brand new to the Division franchise. And so, my friends, without further ado, I give you my latest idea and speculation for the Division 2's new game mode, which I would call Disavowed. Now that name alone probably gives you some clues as to where this is going. Before I dive into exactly what the mode would entail, let me give some of the context and bring you up to speed if you're unaware. Back in the latter half of year 2, before we even knew what was going down with the Star Wars announcement and year 3 and everything, the events of seasons 3 and 4 had been leaked way earlier in 2020. So for months on end, myself and basically everyone was counting the days until what seemed like this huge climactic end to season 4, where Faye kills President Ellis, and then assumedly our agents would be involuntarily flagged rogue. Now obviously, that didn't happen for reasons which are now apparent. Things ended with a whimper instead of a bang. Now I'm willing to bet that when that story beat was conceptualized, we would have seen our agents flagged as rogue, either in a second expansion, which would have launched in March of this year, or Division 3 in March of 2022, but because of the shifting circumstances, that next phase of the story got cut, and we were left with the Faye mission that we got. And the big question that's been left for a lot of us is, when do they finally get to the rogue versus SHD storyline? Because it seems obvious that at some point, that's a conflict in the story they want to get into. But now that's, we're at the point that we're at. It's like, do you wait several years for Division 3? Do you try and do it in Division 2 going forward? Now, I'll be honest, I don't have all the answers. I don't know if this coming update and whatever content may be planned after it can support such a long-awaited and vital component to the Division story, like the Rogues versus SHG, and seeing our agents caught in the middle of that conflict, both in terms of the timeline of events, as well as the content-producing capabilities of the massive Bucharest Alliance team, who are leading the charge now. So I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what, I do have one solution, and that's how to guarantee that this game mode is a success and that it draws in large numbers of people back to the game. Because in this Disavowed game mode I've theorized, we would finally see the event of our agents getting flagged rogue play out in an intense, adrenaline-filled yet replayable manner. Now, like I said, what comes after that? How do they address the story in the seasonal format, or do it just as moving forward? I don't know. Like I said earlier, I'm not giving this any big chance of happening, but those are all problems for another video, another day. For now, let me dish out the details for this new game mode idea of mine, which again, I would call Disavowed. So this would be a bit of a retcon from the Faye mission, but who really cares at this point? You load into the game mode and you have to pick a loadout. You can't access your inventory or change anything once this event begins, so you have to choose something from your existing, set of loadouts in your inventory. Once you do that, and of course this could be played solo or with a group, you load into a random scenario. And this is just the surface of the replayability factor. So you could be helping patrol the White House perimeter, getting patched up in the infirmary, helping escort a friendly resource convoy in the open world, assaulting an enemy control point with a JTF squad, defending one of the settlements. You get the idea. Several different variations of scenarios you could start with. And this would be an entirely separate instance world, just for reference, something akin to survival in Division 1, where you load in and it's its own thing, basically, where you aren't going to find your normal open world activities or any of that stuff. This is a curated experience for this game mode specifically. So you start out with a random scenario, and then bam, an alert rings out for all nearby Division and JTF members. Alert, all agents under the direction of Alani Kelso have disavowed the Division. They conspired in murdering President Andrew Ellis and are enemies of the state. They are now rogue. So again, bit of a retcon. This acts like your agent wasn't at Camp White Oak where the events, played out there, but oh well. And from here, all hell breaks loose. Whatever scenario you start with, either inside the White House or out with a JTF squad or whatever, your first objective is to escape and survive. The JTF and any other Division agents not affiliated with Kelso and the White Oak squad are now forced to treat you as an enemy, and they turn on you. And so you can already imagine the super intense moments this is going to create. Either you have to escape the White House or a settlement or get clear of nearby JTF in the open world. And in this first act, your Isaac systems are beginning to malfunction. Your skills are a bit wonky, your HUD is glitching out, Isaac can't quite provide concise directions, and once you do escape or get clear whatever the first objective is relevant to your starting scenario, your watch goes dark. Isaac is gone, and then suddenly it flicks back on, except now it's red. You're officially a rogue, and none other than Anna boots online to begin guiding you. Remember, we have the Anna operating system within Keener's watch. It's just been suppressed or pushed to the side, I suppose. But now with Isaac gone, we need her to come online, otherwise we're toast. We have no directions. So you've completed what is essentially Act 1 of the mode, and now your big remaining goal is escape Washington, D.C., because now not only are the streets of the city unsafe, so are any JTF-controlled zones. And so what I think would be a cool implementation is if they made it so you can't just head in any direction to escape. Let's imagine the JTF and the remaining division have a perimeter set around the city. And what I think would be pretty neat is if you were forced to contact actual rogue agents via Anna's network. And of course, there'd be some banter, some insults from them, all that stuff. But eventually, you convince them to extract you from DC, because until you can get your name cleared, they're technically your allies. You're not allied with the SHD or the JTF anymore. You got no way out. But in exchange for them to extract you, you need to steal some supplies or download some data or some, stuff like that. And that leads into Act 2 of this mode, where you get a series of mini objectives, crossing off things on a checklist, if you will, that these rogues are requiring in order to extract you. You have to do some traveling, some sneaking, maybe some fighting, all that different stuff. And again, it's just another layer of replayability, because the way you get to Act 2 is randomized, and then the objectives of Act 2 itself are also randomized. Alright, so you do that, you got the stuff the rogues are asking for. Now comes Act 3, the extraction. Now this would probably pop up somewhere far from where you are, so you have to make a bit of a trek, but it could spawn in a variety of locations. On the rooftop of a bounty building, at the crashed Air Force One site, at the Washington Monument. Again, there's endless numbers of places it could go, and that adds to the replayability that much more. And then once you finally get there, you get to your usual extraction protocol: fire the flare, wait X number of minutes, defend against some waves of enemies. And I think a pretty cool final fight would be if a squad of SHD agents attacked you, kind of a parallel to the end of Survival in Division 1 with the Hunters. And then that's that. You'd extract, you'd get the end of session reward screen with your score and whatnot. Now, before I talk about the story implications of this, I would also add that there could be even more depth to this 3-act structure. For example, not every player is going to want to kill the SHD and JTF, right? Or not even your own agent would, because we've been wrongly accused. So what I think would be neat is if you could pretty drastically increase the potential for your score by not killing any friendlies, just incapacitating them, whether that be flashbanging them and running away, or shooting them in the leg so they can't chase you down. So that would be one added layer of challenge. Plus, imagine if they added in like a capturing system, where if you do get taken down during any of the 3 acts, you get captured instead of killed and sent back to the White House, and then maybe someone helps you escape, or you have to fight your way out or whatnot, and you get a second chance. Or, if they want to add in the ability to increase the difficulty, make it so, before you launch the mode, you select your normal difficulty sliders, and then not only increasing the difficulty would make the enemies more challenging, but it restricts the amount of stuff you spawn in with as well. So whereas on normal, maybe you would get your full loadout and your full kit, on heroic, maybe you only get your primary weapon and 1 skill and 2 grenades and 1 armor kit, as opposed to a fully restocked setup. So there's practically an endless number of ways they could make this disavowed idea that would make it replayable, an engaging new game mode, and activity for people to partake in. And that's pretty much the gist of the idea for the mode itself. Absolutely let me know what you think down below. Before I close this out though, I want to address what this would do for the story. Now, like I said before, I don't have all the answers. How would they address our agents now being rogue as far as the game context goes? I don't know. It's not really something that can be addressed in the seasonal format, unless we're just putting it on hold and kind of saying, we know we're roguing on the run, but until an expansion to Div 3 comes where we can properly play that out in gameplay, we're just going to pretend it hasn't happened. Something like that could work, but I'm not saying it'd be perfect. And as I said from the start, I'm not saying this has a high chance of happening, but I do wholeheartedly believe that this would be a really neat addition to the Division game mode collection that we have across Division 1 and 2, and it would truly be something entirely new for the franchise, in the way in which, it would tie into a major story event into a rewarding and replayable experience, which is, like I said, something we've never seen done before, and I, for one, would totally be up for seeing what the devs' interpretation of such a thing could be. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on to be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts about both my idea for this disavowed game mode, as well as any of your own other general thoughts on what you think it may end up being. Like I said, on my channel at least, we haven't discussed this in several months, so I'd be very curious to hear if any of you have developed any new cool ideas or theories in that time. On top of the fact that this update is undoubtedly one of the most secretive we've ever gotten in the franchise's history, and this game mode specifically is a reveal I'm really looking forward to see what the devs have been able to do. So let's hope it's pretty neat. That's all I could ask for, honestly. Alright everyone, well that is going to do it for me. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one guys, RogueGold. Ow.